I'm just trying to fix and adjust here. Sorry I'm running a little late, everyone. Well, the topic for tonight is reality bites. I've had a lot going on in this last week since Friday night, and that's why I've barely posted anything, and I haven't been able to make any videos or do anything because I was all consumed with something that was bestowed upon me again for the second or third time in my life. Now, it is very disturbing. It was very disturbing to me at the time. I try not to think about it a lot, but because of Friday night, I am now forced to have to do the things that I always post, that I always stand for, that I always believe in. And I was basically called out on having to be true to myself and to my followers and to my family and to people in my life by, like I always say, facing your problems and resolving them head on without letting them fester and turn into anything else, right? I always say these things about standing up for yourself and people that are lying and deceitful and do things to other people that I always stand against. Yet my whole life I have been letting a certain person silence me, also causing me to silence other people and take their voice away from whatever has happened to them. And the things that have happened to me, this is going to be a little slow because this isn't easy for me to say or to talk about at all. Hence for why I try not to think about it. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? Everybody wants to know me and thinks they know who I am, but they do not. Things that I've gone through, they think, but they do not. And now it's time to just get it all out because I'm ready to leave it all behind. Because I'm not going to let these things plague my life anymore. Hence for why a few months ago I started seeing a therapist to be able to face all these things head on instead of blocking them out of my head all the time, and instead of addressing them, which is why when I post things, a lot of the times it is like I'm on fire about something because I am very passionate about the things that I am saying, that I learned, that I went through, that I've researched, and the injustices that go on regularly behind other people. Other people that have a complete disregard and disrespect for others around them. People that care about them and love them, and that will do things to them on the sly to get away with them when they shouldn't. Okay? They shouldn't. Because why should good people always have to take the brunt, the burden, and carry and be damaged from these people that do things to other people, right? Like, us good people need to stop being silenced and need to stand up for ourselves and stand together against injustice towards other people, right? So, we're going to start from the beginning of my life, to see a little bit of where I came from. And there's going to be some things that come out that a lot of people didn't know. There's going to be things that come out that a lot of people aren't going to like. There's going to be a couple names dropped that people think are great, and we're going to start from the beginning, a little briefing before what I get to. I need a cigarette for this. And hopefully I don't have another mosquito bite me half to death anytime soon, because they're like hell at this time of the year. Now, I started off in my life with not knowing my father until I was 2. He was away in the Marines, so I never had a bond with a father. So I was always, for the rest of my life, up until now, chasing this love, chasing this approval that I never got from my father when I was growing up. Now, I found out when I was 12 or 13 when he told me, when I had felt my whole life like he hated my guts, that he confirmed that to me when he told me how much he resented different fights that he had got into with my mother when I was growing up. Way back when I was starting from when I was like 6. 6. So from 6 on, my father hated my guts. Well, acted like he hated my guts. 99.9% of the time of my life. So, there's that. So I only had the verbal stuff. I tried to stay out of his sight all the time. I became very depressed. I even overdosed when I was 15 over a guy that I was dating at the time when I was a kid. And it started from there. Like, I also had undiagnosed ADHD, which is another thing. I'm in there to be evaluated for all these things that I didn't know that I had, which made a lot of sense, mind you, now. And so that also explains why my time management isn't the best. I don't sleep very well. I think a lot. I'm pretty damn intelligent. I'm above average intelligence, so I'm not an idiot. And, yeah, disturbances of other people walking. Anywho, so I only had the mental, like that type of thing over being treated like shit by my own father and not having a bond my whole life up until I was older and I started telling him some things when he started having strokes and stuff when I was in my 30s, and then we started having a little more of an understanding of each other, and he chilled out on me a lot. He started thinking a little bit differently towards me. Thank God. So that we had a good relationship before he passed away a couple years ago. Now, at a young age, I started having children when I was a teenager. An older teenager, but I was a teenager. So I was a kid having kids. I didn't make the best decisions in people because of how I felt about just somebody. If I thought somebody would like me, I'd go along with, or if I wanted to like them or be with them or whatever when I was a teenager, I'd go along with things that I ended up doing things at an early age, like practically dragged to do them. And at that teenage age, I got married to somebody I shouldn't have, and I knew right before I got married that I shouldn't have done it, but I didn't want to feel stupid for all the fighting with my family that I did over this said person that they didn't want me to marry. And I did it, so I did anyways. Sheerly because I didn't want to look stupid at the time either. And because I fought so hard to be in that position. So, I did. And he was physically abusive, something that I didn't know much about. I barely dealt with that in my life because my father was not physically abusive to me whatsoever. So I didn't know what that was. And after 4 years of being with him and him being that way and wouldn't stop, I got him to leave and was going to be with somebody else. Somebody else that said how much of an asshole he was for putting his hands on me when he was 2 or 3 times my size. And when I started to be with this person, it was back 1994 to 1998, 99 that we lived together. And his name was John Kessler Jr. That he was 100 times more abusive than my husband ever could think of being when I was with him. Somebody that I left so that my kids didn't grow up thinking that it was okay to be abusive, because I had to see that when I was growing up, because my father was physically abusive towards my poor mother. And so I didn't want my kids to grow up thinking that that was okay, or to repeat the things that they saw, or that that was normal to have a life like that themselves when they were little. Back then, they were 3 and 7 when I started being with John, which a lot of people know that I was. So I'm definitely not lying. I don't lie. I have no reason to lie. I don't do shit to lie about. And during that time, I had to deal with things like being called names all the time. I'd go to the store for a million different things, and I'd forget one thing off the list and be told how stupid I was and a piece of shit I was. I'd regularly was told how much of a skank I was, and not a good mother, and couldn't take care of a house, and I couldn't do this, and I had all these things brainwashed into my head over and over and over until and during this time, I also, at different points, I've had things broken, smashed. I specifically remember many times, one time in particular, that, like, the first time it happened, a plate of spaghetti or rice or whatever it was thrown up in the air at the ceiling and smashed down on the floor. A glass plate full of food on our rug in the living room. And I kept being told to clean up the mess. And me, being somebody that did stand up for themselves at the time, I always have, against these people that I was with, which is probably why I got hurt physically a lot in my life. So thanks to all of them, people that did those things to me. Yeah, it didn't become, it never became normal and used to it, but because I had seen and been through so much of it in my life, that I could take a lot, especially behind somebody that I had feelings for. I took too much. And so at that time, that person, because I said, no, you did it, clean it up your own damn self. No. John grabbed me by the back of my neck, shoved my face to the floor, and he said, if you don't clean this shit up right now, I'm gonna scrub your face in it. In broken glass and in a mess in the rug on the floor. So then I was like, okay, I'll clean it up this time. But the next time you do something like that, you're fucking cleaning it. Anywho, another instance, he was coming after me after throwing me into a ditch, spraining my collarbone, and chasing me through a field near his brother's house, which at that point, I thought he was going to kill me. He acted like he was when we fought. And I was running towards his brother's house through the field, screaming his brother's name. And then he stopped chasing me. So then I came back out. And then he didn't end up doing anything. I can't remember what happened after that. Another time, when he was staying with me for a short amount of time when I was in Martville. We were in an argument. He held a shotgun to my head. And he said, if you don't shut up, I'm going to blow your brains out. And then I'm going to shoot myself. So at that point, yeah, we were scared. Wouldn't you be? And that's the kind of relationship I had with this person when I was with him. And the different things that he would say to me, I knew he was a liar. And so yes, I did used to try to catch him with his lies and other women that he was trying to run around with and that he was saying. And it got to the point where when I lived at Anderson Lane, my daughter was 8 or 9. And she didn't even know that what was going on at the time was wrong. Until a friend of hers at school that was going through the same thing with a relative was telling my daughter what was happening, what he did. And she said, really? My mother's boyfriend does the same thing. And the girl said, he shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong. And the child went home and told their mother. And the mother called the school. And then CPS was called. And there was an investigation. And the police were involved. And at that time, mentally, I was oblivious. Like, I couldn't conceive of it. Like, I didn't want to think anything like that could have been happening. Because to me, it would destroy me. Because I never wanted anything to happen to my kids that has ever happened to me in my life. And during that investigation, shortly after, John was living above Chasers in a room. And at the time. And he would come to see me wherever I lived after that for a few more years or something. And he had told me, practically word for word, he had told me that if he spent one day in jail, if anything happened to him behind any of that, if anything came of it whatsoever, anything was done to him, that he was not only going to make sure people were killed and houses were burnt down, but children would be raped and all kinds of crazy shit that he had said at the time. So at that moment, I had to tell everybody, don't say anything, don't do anything. And he had silenced me from all this. And then I had to silence them. And then years had gone by. And just a handful of years ago, my daughter had the statute of limitations was opened up. She made another report. Now, of course, by that time, it was many years later. Proving it was going to be 1,000 times harder. And So what I did a couple of years ago, or whenever, like a couple of years ago, something like that, year or so, something, I had made a fake profile. Well, I made a profile and then changed the name, wiped all my stuff that I had on it off, changed the name and everything, and I posted this about John. So, and I went down through and I friend requested every single friend on his friends list, and then I blocked him so he couldn't see it or say anything about it, in hopes that somebody that knew him or that was ever with him was on there. And if they asked their kid, or their kid ever said anything to them, if they knew anything, hopefully somebody would come forward. And that's what the police said would help her case, if you had anybody else that came forward and said the same thing. So that's why I did that. Not only to get it out so that nothing happened to any other kids, but so people would be aware of it and keep them away from them if they had any, and help her case out by coming forward themselves or with their kid. Now, at that time, of course, I had to have a different name up there. Otherwise, it would come back onto my family, which, at the position I was in at the moment, and from what I was threatened years ago, I was worried about. So, behind that, next, this last Friday night, I came through after going to a bar with a relative of mine that it was her birthday, because I next to never go out or do anything anymore. I don't hang out with other people. I don't have time for it. I'm too busy taking care of my family and trying to self-care and take care of myself and heal from all the things that have happened to me all these years, right up until now. I finally got my strength and my power back now, because now I love myself instead of loving men that don't deserve it more than me, that I sacrificed my happiness and the things that I needed to be with them because I was afraid of losing them instead of being with people that were afraid to lose me. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Anywho, let's continue on, because we're almost there. And my favorite show came on at 10. I'd like to be watching that. And I've consumed my entire week with the pain, suffering, and the thoughts of all this. And I want to start a new chapter of my life that's better with these things behind me. So, Friday night, on my way back through, I was sitting at a table outside of a certain bar by myself, minding my own business with my back to everybody, waiting for somebody that I really cared about, that also is close to this, unfortunately, close to this said person, related to them, and was going to play pool with them, because even though shitbag was around once in a while, I didn't pay 2 seconds attention to him. I didn't want to look at him. I despised him. But I wasn't going to stop living my life because of it. So, as I waited for this person, which I almost left because I really was tired and wanted to go home and had enough for the day, that John came walking over to me and leaned on the table next to me so nobody could hear him, because everybody was like at least 20, 30 feet away, and commenced to slowly go through different things. You remember this, do you remember that, do you remember this? Oh, this happened, that happened. And it was grooming me for what he was going to say at the end of this little conversation that he was trying to have before this person came out and was going to be around to hear him or see him, what he was doing. Yes, I realize I cut a lot of my life out still, because there's some things that I just don't want to talk about that are behind other people and other things, and that's not the problem that I have right now, today. That he has pictures of me from back when I was in my early 20s, compromising pictures that he had taken with him when he left, that were mine. I took them and they were mine. He also had been using them to coerce me not to say anything in the mix of it all. And he went down through the line of these things, mentioning them, and mentioning that at one point, I can't remember how long ago he said it was, whether it was yesterday or years ago, I can't remember, but that he was affiliated, he made sure I knew that he was affiliated with all the biker groups around here, and he even knew the Hells Angels. Things to try to scare me with. And he mentioned the pictures that he had, and I was like, and I was trying to blow him off what he was saying and act like I don't know nothing about anything, because I was sitting there by myself with his son that was also bouncing around. I was there by myself. And a woman shouldn't have to defend herself against a man anyways, because men aren't supposed to intimidate women or put their hands on women or threaten women. Cowards. Now, cowards, they do. That's what they do. Especially on the down low, on the sly, and behind a closed door. That's where cowards go with the things that they do to women. Because they're cowards. Let them try that with a man. They don't do that with a man. They do that to women because we're smaller, not as strong, whatever. Okay? So that's what he did. And those were the things that he was saying. And he said, I think I know who that profile was, because him and other people have been trying to find out ever since it was up there who exactly it was that did it. They didn't know it was me. Surprise. Anywho, he said he knew who it was. I didn't want him to go after that person also, because he thought that that's who it was. An innocent person that didn't do it and didn't know nothing about it. Which is also family of mine. And I was told, he told me, and he was trying to be very careful with the way he said anything he said at the time that he was saying it. But I got the drift of what he was trying to portray when he said, if this person said name on this profile, the person that he thought did it, my daughter, me, or anybody else, says anything more about him being a pedophile, that things were going to start happening to people. So right there, again, for the very last time, mind you, last time, I was threatened with being silent about liking him or disliking him. Well, about disliking him and saying anything about what he did, that he was going to have things happen to us. So he threatened me, my kids, and my whole family, that if anybody said anything, things were going to start happening to people in my family. So, at that point, I was faced with a decision. A very hard decision. Where do I let him silence me and my kid again? Do I say something about it? Do I go to the police? Do I do anything? What do I do? At that moment, I felt like somebody sucked my soul out of my body, because I knew something was going to have to happen, whether I did it myself or whether I went to the police or whatever I did that was going to bring whatever on me and my family. It took me days to figure out what I was doing and how I was going to do it, so that nothing happened before I had these things in place, before I talked to the right people and did the right thing. At that moment, where even though I was upset and angry when I was sitting there over other people that I had been with and the things that they had done that I had found out about that night, things that I knew were true but didn't know for sure until then. And then I had that. The last little nail in that coffin of that chapter of my life stuck in. And I had to, at that point, before I even said or did anything that anybody knew of, I caught myself being more observant, being more cautious, watching my back. And I didn't like that, because nobody threatens me. Nobody blackmail me with anything that they got, that they know, or that they think they know about me. Understand that. No one, especially a freaking man, will threaten to tell anybody anything, because I promise you, I will get on here and I will tell all of you in the entire world myself before anybody thinks they're going to try to coerce me into doing or not doing something that is right to get away with shit on me. No one. Back then, yeah, I was that person. I was that person that you could get one over on, that was naive, that was too nice, had too much empathy, let people get away with shit. I let 4 different people, 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. 4 people that I did not pursue. 2 of them I had reports on, the last 2, when I was around 34, out of state. Early 2000s, maybe 2002, Eric Sereno raped me. The first one that ever did in my whole life. Somebody that I didn't tell anybody about, because I would have died. It would have killed me. I would have went nuts on somebody if I had to hear anybody anywhere around me say anything about it having anything to do with being my fault or anything dumb. I'd go nuts. So I told no one. I did nothing about it. And you know what happened from doing nothing about it? Months later, he went to jail for tying one of his ex-girlfriends up and not letting her go. And whatever he did to her during that time, I don't know the whole story, because I was trying to bury that too. 6 months later, someone else did, also, that was in Fulton. But from what I heard not too long ago, he was dead. So, good for him. He's exactly where he should be. But that was behind being drugged a lot. So, I didn't even know it for 6 months later, till I sat down at a diner that used to be across from Family Dollar and Save-A-Lot, next to the CYO. Friends of mine that were running that diner, sitting there one night, and he sat near me, and he started running his mouth. I literally, it took everything in me not to jump off that stool I was sitting on in that diner, snatch him off his stool, and kick the shit out of his face. I wanted to kill him. I couldn't believe it. That was after him giving me a bunch of drugs. Because back then, I had a very hard time dealing with the fact that I was raped the first time. I became an alcoholic. And then I commenced to be very oblivious to things that were going on around me. So, yeah. That's what I dealt with. And then when I went out of state in 2006, 2009, the beginning of 2009, I was raped 2 different times by 2 different people, a month apart from each other. At knife point. The other one I thought had a gun. I kept being told that he had one. The other one definitely had a knife. And I thought I was going to die. That's where I got my PTSD from. Before I came back to New York, 2011, after my stepdad died, it was more of a father to me than my own father ever was. Up until before he died. And we had a good relationship at that point. So, for all you people out there that have always said, oh, she's crazy, oh, she's nuts, oh, she's stupid, oh, she's this. Oh, let me see if you could even live through one of those things happening. What would you do? Would you be on drugs? Would you be doing all kinds of crazy shit? Would you be dead by now? Would you have killed yourself? Could you have handled all the things that I've been through in my entire life, on top of finding out I have ADHD, realizing it myself? I'm waiting for the evaluation in a few months. That I acted a little off, a little angry, a little nuts. Could you handle any of it yourself? Did you ever go through any of it to the extent I have? Probably not. At that point, you tell me how you'd handle it, how you'd act towards people doing shit to you. Would they not piss you off just a little bit? Would it not piss you off to act out and say or do something just a little bit? Who's the ignorant asshole now? Is it me? Or is it you? Now, not only am I not nuts, I'm not off my rocker, I'm just dealing with assholes. But I'm also, unbeknownst to you, above average intelligence. When I was in school, I got A's up until schoolwork bored me and I didn't even want to be there anymore. I used to daydream out the window because I didn't want to be there. So yeah, I'm not stupid and I'm not crazy. I'm extremely smart. I spend more time awake, watching videos, researching things, and learning things. Half the time that you're sleeping. But that's where I'm at right now. So, Thursday morning, when I went to my mental health appointment, because when I'm there now, everything comes out. Anything that I can think of that was a problem to me, that happened to me, that is bothering me, I say, no matter how hard it is. Most of the time that I'm in that appointment, I'm crying, telling him things that I can't tell anybody else, that I can't talk about with anybody else, barely, that I know, even people that I can trust, because unless they went through it themselves, which a lot of them haven't, they don't understand. Besides the fact that I don't like to talk about the things because they upset me. Because for the most part, most of the time, I'm really good. I got really good at blocking things out or pretending everything's okay. Having a big smile on my face so I don't upset my family or anybody around me. To worry about me. Because everybody's always worried about me. What's she gonna do next? She don't do much of anything that's bad to anybody else unless they've done or said something bad to her, because that's how I am. I stand up for myself now. I don't put up with people's shit now, because now I learned to love myself more than loving other people that don't deserve it. I'm done with caring about people more than they care about me, and putting my happiness aside to make them feel more comfortable and better about themselves and happier because I'm there. I cut people out now, very quickly, with no problem, because I can't handle one more bad word, one more bad thing happening to somebody that knows they're a good person and does not go around doing things to other people. Or good people, especially. I'll stand up for good people. Somebody that I think is a good person. I'll stand up for them. But if I know you're not, I'm not standing up for you. I'll stand there and laugh and watch you fall. I'll do that really well. Because if you deserve something, it's not my fault. And I'm not going to stop anything. I used to do that. People that were abusive to me, I used to tell people, don't bother with them. Don't do nothing. That's all me. That's on me. Now, I don't deal with those people. I'm not stopping nothing. I never deserved any of it. And I'll be damned if I'm going to pay for it for the rest of my life. So, that's where we're at. After that appointment, well, during that appointment, I had the sheriff show up and talk to them. Then I had the Fulton police show up and I talked to them. And then I went down there and I talked to them further to finish up that conversation. Everyone has been informed. Everyone knows. That's why I'm here. To make sure everybody knows. So if anything happens to me or anyone in my family, I have a very large family. If anything happens to anybody, you know who did it. You know who to look at. Anyways, you know who to look at. Start there. Because John Kessler Jr. is the one that made the threat. I have a report on it. If you'd like to see it and don't believe me. So, start looking there if anything bad happens to anybody in my family that you know. And this is also to inform the rest of my family that doesn't know what's going on. So now you do. Pay attention to who and what's around you and what they're saying and doing. I have put precautions in place to increase my odds before I had done that. So, that's where we're at. Because of these things now being out and known in precautions that I've put in place, I feel a little bit better than I have this whole week that was robbed from me. I was on my way to some pretty big things, and it put a big damper on the way that I felt. And the contentment that I had. But the things that I have done and put into place, I feel a little bit better right now. I feel a little bit safer. Somebody always knows where I am and what I'm doing every step of the way where I go. And there are cameras, so if you ever decide to screw around my house, smile for the camera, okay? There's other things in place too for you if you try to bother me here. And even if I was walking down the street, it's gonna be like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. It won't be pleasant though, I assure you of that. So, my best advice to anyone, don't bother me. If you see me and you don't like me, too effing bad. You're gonna have to just suck it up, buttercup, and keep walking. Because I won't tolerate anybody in their shit. And I'm not gonna worry about living the rest of my life because of you. Understand that. My life isn't gonna stop. And I'm gonna have a good one from now on. You can count on that. And I have a new addition to my home. Nice little friend of mine that I like to call Excalibur. If I were you, I wouldn't want to meet him. Nah. I don't think you'd like him very well. Anywho, everyone have a good night, because now I'm gonna rest easy, and I will. So, yeah, my reality does bite. And don't let anyone silence you. Do not let a criminal silence you from speaking your truth. When you do that, they go on to have a happy little life doing these things to other people, damaging more people. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. You are important. That's my message. Like, subscribe. I turned off the comments because I'm not gonna have somebody get up there and say something stupid. So, I'm done with people attempting to ruin my life. Those days are over. Good night, y'all. Time to get back on track. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe.